we try as architects and in a strong humanistic tradition, we try to understand, we try to know everything, and the price for that is we don't understand anything. So therefore we will talk about everything without really understanding it. So therefore, for example, I'm fascinated with the talk of Elias, and I heard it, I think, for these kind of things from Elias for 20 times in the last 6, 8 years, I don't know. And very often we had long discussions and so on. And of course I don't understand it. But I share the fascinosum of it. And I share the openness of the thinking in abstraction. So. And I share not being depressed with the actual situation. So this is, therefore, a treatise on digital architecture, and this is what I think we as architects should learn, how to deal with these things. So, and therefore, there are three things. Yeah, it's a treatise, not a theory. Then, what is a digital? What is architecture? So, and I will not say what it is. I say what it is not, because I don't know what it is. So, for example, now here we had Pico de Miranda. So, it is not a theory. So, it's not harmonized collection of information about various topics under the sun. It's not about that. So it's a compilation of words and symbols. What you will get with my talk, you should not forget that. It's just a compilation which can be used to create meaning. So they don't have sense, and I don't ask for it. I don't ask for a reason for that. So in its construction, in its skeleton, they make I create some meaning. Don't try to derive it from the reference I give. Yeah? So therefore it's not about tuning, optimizing things, trying to understand things, yeah? It's about playing a tuned instrument. So it's a kind of artistic and gesture. So it's a celebration, it's a feast. So this is what I think treatise is. So keep that in mind, because every theorist will shoot me. What is a digital? So I really like this, I think it's Pasolini looking at the Centre Pompidou, Rossellini, and making about the construction of that and so on. So what is a digital? It's not a classical machine. It's driven by external forces like Da Vinci or Newton. It's not a motor by internal forces like Watt or Lagrange. It's a technique, it's a trick, it's a quantum mechanic. So, but it is a mechanic. Again, so it's not a classical machine, and it's a mechanic, but it's a quantum mechanic. So I don't want to know what, I don't know what it is, but it has to be different from Da Vinci, and it has to be some symmetries towards Da Vinci. So I don't understand Da Vinci, who can, he's dead for 500, 600 years. So I don't understand how these people get there. I'm fascinated, like with Pico de Mirandola. I'm fascinated with all these things of Da Vinci. So, but I don't know them. So the same with quantum mechanics. So I'm fascinated with certain criteria, but I don't. But I know, so this is what I suggest. So this is my treatise, that there is a symmetry. So we can learn especially from them. Because in both cases we are tricksing around. Tricksing with nature. So we are contracting that, and today we would say it's not a machine, it's not a motor, it's an application. And it should be, I think it's very important for us at architecture, and especially with big data, machine learning and so on, it's anything. So if we are not able to, to rethink the world as it is, as digital, there's something wrong. We can't think there isn't a new world, or we don't like it, and so on. We have to learn to get the world seen and talked about digitally. So, about architecture. That's the art of jointing elements. And it's different in every time. All the generations have different. It's not about axioms, it's about atoms. It's not with theory, it's more with philosophy, not with numbers, it's with characters, not with calculations, it's with articulations, not with classifications, categories. It's not with reasons, but with contracting, not with art, but with mastership. So I don't really want to understand that. It's a skeleton of concepts, and we can reason and talk a lot about these things, but it gives you references, indexes, and a skeleton to think about what architecture might be. Nobody knows, just circulating around. So my background, I am educated as an architect. I never made a serious real building because I directly went to university in the second half of the 80s. Then I focused on artificial intelligence with a professor who was crazy enough in the tradition of Buckminster Fuller, Konrad Wachsmann, it was Fritz Haller, crazy enough in building construction to work with artificial intelligence. He wants to get the structure of building to computing. So we are not in computer graphics, we had been in artificial intelligence. I'm in artificial intelligence, fascinated for 30 years now. So I founded several companies. I started in 2000 at ETH. I founded several companies. It was a kind of empirical phase, getting applications with this kind of knowledge. For 8 years now, we found a point of saturation. We made a step back and started with writing and teaching. So the outcome is companies and books. The turning point was that we somehow succeeded with our AI technique in a more or less classical way to win a kind of Turing test. So we made a fully automated design and won a prize in a competition, anonymously. So this was a kind of a turning point. So therefore, if you can make competitions automatically, you can have 100,000 a year automatically, and then architecture gets engineering. So and then the question was, should we do that? That's ugly. It's like these Uber guys and so on. Or simply say, okay, then start to reason about what is the new kind of architecture needed. So obviously we need to make a step back and rethink the whole story. So my fascination is this thing. So I grew up, and it's a kind of the loneliness of the generic node. So it's a void who knows everything. So this is Fritz Haller. And these are the crystalline structures. And they have the minimum, it's a kind of transcendental structure. So there's a minimum formal impact. So, and it provides, in principle, everything, and in the most invisible way. So it refuses affection, yeah? And makes you, as an inhabitant, think as a person, because there's nothing there you can lean on to can be comfortable. So it's super uncomfortable. Some people complain today about these things. But he's the most transcendental functionalist, I think. So therefore I would say it's the most manierist functionalist. And then he started in the 80s with AI to get these things more complex, or in principle, to understand these structures much better in a more adequate way. So you know these fascinosen from other references. This, for example, is Archizoom. They are more activists. So he's super quiet, small man, this size. not talking at all. So constant meditation on things. So these are the activists of that time. These are other references. Yeah? Okay. So what I think, if you look at the 20th century or the last 100 years, what happened? The interesting thing is, what came is aliens. They came from outer space. They are aliens. These are things happened in the 20th century. So, like these things. So aliens from outer space, the TV, the automobile, nuclear energy, the airplane, the bubble gum, the antibiotics, fertilizer, laser light, bikini, photovoltaics, electronic computer, mobile phone, and so on. I have two things I really was shocked. Yeah? The first color TV with my uncle, therefore I choose that at this point in time. I was shocked, I couldn't sleep. It was a color TV of this size. And I'd seen that first time, a moving image in color. And the same story was with Xerox windows. I'd seen a screen in black and white, crisp, with multiple windows, and they are async and moving text. And I was shocked. Yeah. So, and these are species from outer space, aliens. So we don't know what to do. So I think we simply have to accept that we don't know what they are. So we can't understand that. So and these are the criteria how we these are how we interact with them. So I have movies for that. For example, it's very important to see that 20 years ago, there was no mobile phone. So you see that in all these movies, they have cords, and when they are walking, they couldn't talk with another. Or in car, they couldn't telephone. So they had paper maps, and so it's incredible. So this is 20 years ago. This is when I started at ETH. So we forget that. So now we have two principal attitudes toward that. So we have the athletics machines, and we promote that, or we think about that as we get afraid of it. And these are the movies of that. So we are afraid of the performativity of these machines, and there are thousands of that. Or we start, I think this is very promising, in a kind of coexistence with it. So we go not for the athletics, but we go for the smartness of them. So we get towards a coexistence with these aliens. And these are the movies for that. Yeah? So this is how we talk with them. If you go to a kind of historical line, this is a classification you find in literature, in artificial intelligence, and you see which kind of, so for us it's, as architects, it's interesting which kind of artifacts coming out. So people, the first phase of artificial intelligence is the golden years. It's 56, 74. This is how the screen looked like. This is how the computers looked like. This is how they use it. This is the hero, the alien of that time. So this is my master, Fritz Haller, the lonely, generic point, knowing everything. Yeah. And this is the architecture to that. This is my time when I entered the story. There's a PC and the expert systems. This is how it looked like. This infantilization, and this is the aliens. This is how we start to try to understand them. We communicate with them. So they're not alone anymore. So we talk. But they are infantile. Everything is infantile. This is branding and so on. And the architecture for that is that. Same time. I think it's very important that we see that this time is moving this fast in technology, but we don't have this speed in the reception of architecture. So we think this is pretty recent, huh? But in movies, this kind of marketing, this kind of front ends, it's an insane, old-fashioned, outdated. At the same time, this is the paradigms in computing they made this with. So now, deep learning, what is going on today, and from 2000 on, it's this. We have this kind of integration in our eco environment of information technology. It's everywhere. We're using it on the fly. It's a direct coexistence of things. It's not any longer the kids. It's this kind of interfaces and these kind of AI stories. Or the Google car or something. So in architecture, it's that. These things are somehow, it's a very hybrid integration of super connected, strong talking gestures. This is much more reflective and simple in how it works. So, these are the principal ways to talk about it. So these had been historical phases with examples. And you will see, if you look at the masterpieces in movies and software or in architecture, you see an astonishing consistency on these phases in time. Nevertheless, orthogonal to that, there are always, and we had it already, satire, comedy, and tragedy as these three different ways of articulation, modes of articulations. We have the satire, so which means that if information plays the old-fashioned role of matter, this is a satire, and this is seduction. And if you look for food, it's this. This is what 90% is today. Comedy is this is my suggestion, I don't know. So if information plays information, there's a kind of challenge. This is superficial, there's a challenge. Would be that. And the third one is tragedy. So you play the role of energy, sacrifice, and that's this, because. These are the three different modes of articulation. So you can go with Salio, but I found it much more boring. So, this is the setup. So how we behave, how the situation today is in very rough images. So I would say the problem of the situation today is, or what these aliens are doing, why they are so powerful, is because it's so easy. So it's rhetorics that you say it's complicated to be a master in computing. That's nonsense. So the strength of them is that it's so simple. The aliens, their power is that they pair with a kind of instant accessibility without any effort, everywhere. So, and it's a nuclear energy, it's a drugs, it's a computing, there are the Macy conferences, and these are these are contracts with these aliens. Principal contracts how to set up our societies with these aliens, how to treat them. And the problem is that they are so convincingly simple. They make us forget the complexity of the things around us. They make us lazy in thinking. So especially these human interfaces, they simply say, click me, then you understand me. That's nonsense. They understand us. They learn what we think, and by that they understand us, the aliens. And they make us lazy in thinking. That's a key problem, I think. So what we see now is the celebration of nonsense, because we forget to think. So we have that. We'll see that around. We had the gnomon and so on. So we start to circulate. It's always in circles around. So we are circulating ourselves around the world and getting connected. Very strange. I found this thing. There's a dead whale. It's incredible. That and look at this. It was last week. There are some 20 different photo selfies of this dead whale. It's incredible. So, and we are losing every sense in this by using this or taking this simple access. So things get connected. You get friend with everybody on your planet in 3 steps. No problem. That might be nice, but of course, you get connected to any crime in 3 steps. That might be complicated, but it's the same thing. Yeah. Or what we see in politics, you get connected. You can make any argument in 3 steps, no problem. Or any theory in 3 steps, no problem. Yeah. And what we observe is that all sense, which means making reason for things, gets mixed up. So you have to prioritize reason. So I would say this is a kind of entropic noise. We are currently ending up. So, and of course, it doesn't look like this. It looks, very comfortable. For example, it looks like in these factory halls. So whatever we do, the world is available. All the production, all the trading, all the tourism. We are rich in these kind of cycles. All the excess, all the money, all the power, and so on. It's getting senseless and rotating. Yeah. And we are facing the paradox, according to Rem Koolhaas, you can't improve by doing better. And then here we're hanging around like this, which is an adequate kind of articulation in 66. Yeah. So I want to make a strong distinction between the losing of sense and the creation of meaning, because I think you have to affirm this entropy of sense making. You have to affirm that to be able to create meaning. So you have to go from outside. You have to get alien, so you have to go beyond the entropic horizon, you have to get alienated, and then as an alien, you have to go back and make sense in a strange environment. You have to alienate yourself, like all these apparatus. So and this, I think, is what a gnomon is doing. Yeah, which means that you you're going out beyond any reason, you alienate yourself, and then you're coming back, which means you are not all the other stuff around. So not all you know. You're not that. You're alien. So, but you're the one that knows this stick. Yeah? And this is what I think Thales did. They took the shadow of the course of the Egyptian sun to make positions in space. To make locations in space. So this, I think, what Kepler's doing on the next level of abstraction, and now it's not about location in space, it's about a location in time. So he takes spatiality as a new alien. He's leaving the world of space. He's getting back as an alien of space and enters the world of time. For that, he needs a gnomon, something like that. This is what I don't know. It's a kind of hypothesis that this. So I think the gnomon is something like the axis of this machine, which shows the principal movement of the cosmos. Yeah? So it's every vector in time. So, and again, a very vague hypothesis. I think in the end of the 19th century, we left the space, the absolute time in entropy, and now we entered in life. I would say it's in life. And this gnomon might be, for example, these monster matrices about all our activity, all our movements in time, which are recorded, for example, by Google. So Google takes the shadows of all our analytical world, of all our movements, and we say we are all not that. We are aliens to that. And the problem towards Google would be that we say, if we make meaning, directly meaning out of these traces from this old world, yeah, this is not possible. So this is a map of the sense we lost in time, and we have to make meaning out of it, which means it's a gnomon towards every question in life. I'm absolutely not sure whether this is a gnomon. Elias showed a mathematical picture of that. I think it's a placeholder for a principal idea we have to look for. Yeah? So the main problem with Google is that they establish a single gnomon for the whole world, which is a kind of tyrannic setup. So you have what they all did, Kepler, with all the ships, with these compasses and navigation instruments, what Thales did with the gnomon and so on. They put it in their pocket and run around, and they made it private. So we have to make private Googles. That's the only solution for today's, to get a person, a digital person for today's problems. So if we are equipped like that as a person, as aliens in a new world, there are three different ways of writings from out the universe in the new world. So we know it, these kind of conceptions, A, B, C, with the geometry of ancient Greeks. This had been the phonetic alphabet contracting the nature in space. And this is an interesting writing. So phonetic alphabet is, there's an A, it's a cipher of anything, it's coming from out of the universe, and they simply say R, then they start to communicate, You say T, and whoop, it's there. It's from out the universe. So I go, pop, it's magic. Going right, whatever I can imagine. So it's universal. I'm from outer space. I'm able to write. It's incredible. And they managed, and then they put on this logic and this kind of geometry, dealing with that, to be sure that is not absolute nonsense, to make meaning out of that. So what we have with the writing is making meaning out of these ciphers, out of the universe. Do the same thing in time, in Renaissance. We have this triangle again with this point of infinity. We had that already. So you see what the drawing is. So we are moving in time. So the objects get vivid, and you're able to describe that by moving it. It's that, if you have it in space. Because you are organizing your stuff in time, you are able to make a drawing. So this is a kind of imitation of this word. So therefore, this is rhetorics for this new word, which is time. So it's this writing. You change a single line, you have a complete different thing from out the universe. So and I think, just to make the symmetry again, with code, something should be today very similar to contract nature in life, not in time, not in space. We know a lot about these things. We can read a lot about that in time, but we don't know a lot with life, with our actual situation. So what I suggest is, what we have to learn with code today is that we contract nature in life. So I would say it's this kind of machine, these processors, it's the lambda calculus, and it's what we have here. So you have an expression, this expression, and you have an evaluation, expression, evaluation. This is one part of the articulation. You have a head and you have a body. So, and then you write in this, and then you have results. So you make 15, and then you get another result. So it's turning the whole story, and then again and again. So it's turning throughout the whatever. So it's very similar to this. And it's very similar to this. That you change the whole story just by reconfiguring the elements. But in space, in time, and I would say in life. So to summarize that, we have this kind of spiral. I would say it's writing in space, drawing in time, and coding in life, just to get an indicator what it might be, without saying, pointing and sticking to a definition what it should be. So correspondingly, we have these articulations in architecture. We have writing in space, these artifacts, drawing in time, this artifact, and astonishingly it's relatively stable, so it doesn't get too much difference. And here this is coding in life. So astonishing to have to be coding has, I don't believe it anymore, that coding has to do something directly with computer. The computer is a certain trick to do that. It's a technique. So it's a way of thinking that, so like the drawing, it doesn't matter whether you make a small model or you make a line, whether you make it in perspective or isometric, so it doesn't matter whether you have, so this, you can make computational architecture as we've seen it with Migayu, computational architecture without computer. So this is not the problem. So therefore I think this must be, if all these symmetries and this skeleton of concepts is working around the concept of coding and the digital in architecture, then this must be coded in life. And because we know a lot about these artifacts, we as architects can make reasons about what coding might be. We don't know. Nobody knows. This is what we learned in these days as well. Nobody really knows what it is. So, and what is very important as well, being an alien in a new world, you need to be rich in reading, and you have to be able to talk. And each node talking, therefore, needs a very carefully reading of what is there, what is available. And you are alien to that. So it's a form of archaeology. So you don't understand it. So you have to give up the idea that you can understand what's going on. So this is what I'm always saying. Because we are alien. If we are digital, we are alien. We can't understand it. Give it up. Yeah? So, and you see it, that in Renaissance it was very similar. So the measurement of Rome, very prominent with Alberti, comes with the Renaissance. So it's a kind of the birth of actual, of archaeology. It's the same time when they entered as aliens time. So, and the result is, look at this. This is an old church, and the church gets a face. So the church is in space, and the church and the new architecture do not compete in space with the old one. They compete in time. So it's just a new face. So therefore, for example, I totally think that these stories about the ecological footprint and so on, it's completely not adequate, yeah, because all these, and you see the growth of the volumes of data, of bandwidth, and so on, they have no limit of growth. It's simply nonsense to say that. So therefore, the story about the ecological footprint is that these people are complaining that Renaissance building 10 times, so making more ornaments on it. I don't know what they're complaining about. They're simply playing different games. So therefore, I don't know solutions for that, but we have to look for different conceptions because we are aliens. So we can't look at our foots and at our location in space or in resources, which is in time. So what we can look for is this kind of archaeology of today should be, and this is like Kohlhaas as well, it's our cultural heritage today. So this is a transfer of whatever we have of value add the heritage digitally. So it's a strong thing on cultural heritages, on tourism, and so on. It's a kind of archaeology. And there's a need for that if we put that in this perspective. And we need, this is what I think is what we have to get a focus to, that we have to find the digital everywhere. It has to be there. It must be saturated with that. So by that, these phenomena get another way, you can access them differently and they give another way of acceptance and so on. So if we have it like that, and we already saw it in this helix, it's not simply layers, it's getting around, and you have writing in space and reading in space, drawing in time, reading in time, coding in life. Reading in life is not there. But there was a reading of things and before that and so on. Now there's always a counterpart. There are symmetries vertical, and they are kind of horizontal symmetries up and down. So if we want to go there, I want to go to some of these conceptions. This is very, it's a kind of provocative, and it's a setup. So we already seen this gnomon, you, an element, as an alien in a new world. So this is atom. You are here. Which means you're reflecting yourself towards irrational circle. And by that, you're moving freely. So the problem with that is that the irrational can't be fixed, so it's not real. You can't calculate it. You see, this is the pi with 100, so this doesn't end. It really doesn't end. So this is the principal problem is the infinity, and by that you're working on something you can't calculate, and by that you have a paradox ground, and you're hustling around always with this thing that you can't find, that you have to deal with this infinity. So therefore in the heliocentric you affirm affinity, you simply say it doesn't matter, I take pi or I take square root and so on, it doesn't matter, you affirm infinity and you just make decisions, which is a paradox. So now I would say the geocentric, you're part of this is the inverse thing, this is the writing, this is the reading, you're part of a known unity, part of nature, this is an axiom, and then here you're part of the sky. And this is just the other way around. So you are here, and you're a projection from out the irrational things to paradox ground. The problem here is that we have the only order of that on flat ground, on line, is that you have the irregularity of primes. You have to deal with that. So these are the first 100 primes, and you see, and you know these are they're infinite, and there's principally no order in it. But it's the only source of order, this principal disorder, to make clear steps on flat ground. It's always had been like that, and the source of all these problems in arithmetic. So arithmetic is trying to abstract from this disorder to make clear, simple, single steps. So therefore the geocentric, you affirm the paradox and make the right step towards infinity. So I always would say, now these are these kind of principal inversions. You see paradox towards infinity, or here infinity, which is paradox. I write it like this, paradox, infinity. So all we have it that we say we have talking and reading. So in another, just to do some more of these pairs. Complete, consistent is with Gödel, we had that. You're either complete or consistent, both is not working. You're either particle or wave, you're matter or energy, even or odd, paradox or infinite, human intellect or intellectual humans. You can't be, you can't praise the human and the intellect. It's simply not working. You have to decide. Because this is with the infinity and this is with the paradox. So, therefore we do agree, for example, information is not matter or energy, that's right. But we disagree with the cybernetic shortcut that information is information. This is simply, it doesn't help. So therefore I try to span the things in the skeleton. So we have to learn to deal with it. Now certain applications of that. So if we are looking for paintings, for example, which are talking, which are with paradoxes. Then we look for Caravaggio. So this is a painting which talks. And this has a view. Manet, on the other side, is a painting which is reading. Manet is looking or is listening. You see, yeah? You can pick any picture of this time and any painting of this time, and you will find this scheme. It's interesting. So this is with paintings. The same with sculptures. Michelangelo. I think I can. Michelangelo, he's talking. Rodin is looking, is listening, or reading. So I find that very striking. So what I would suggest, if you have it like that this is not painting at all. This is a painted sculpture. This is a painted painting. This is a sculptural sculpture. This is a painted sculpture, a sculptured painting. So therefore, paintings are with the infinity, sculptures are with the paradox. Now with architecture. Because I think these things get combined. You will see how it works. This is an image of the entropic noise in space, just a symbolic image. If you come as an alien from outer space, then you have points in time. And they are not all the other points in space. They're not these things from medieval age, whatever they are. So we know that as a differential calculus, and this is how it looks like. So these points are aliens in space. They're points of time. And by that because of that, we can make these differential calculus. These are movements in time, rendered to space so that it gets convenient to and gets rhetorically displayed. So I think that's the movement, and by that we have the Renaissance. In energy, this is the energy of points in time. So this is a time people got an understanding of the property of energy. So they focused not on things in space, so on the wood or on the animal. They understood how to clean coal that you get. So they changed the property of their source of energy, and they had been able to access encapsulated pieces of energies in time by nature, so which is coal. So therefore they bypassed nature of space. So they didn't have to care any longer about the tree, the animal at this place. They simply dig and got these encapsulations. But it was needed to think in time as aliens, that you're able to clean it in a way that it was not toxic. So, and these are just with the symmetries. So I'm not a historian. I'm an architect trying to find stabilities for today. I'm doing this kind of digital archaeology. So, and if we have like that, then these are our articulations. So these are the drawings of these times, of these buildings. They are the drawings in time here. So this is the card, but this is what they did in our domain. So these are drawings in time. So they are rational in time, so they rationalize our articulations in time, but they are irrational in space. Like the hypotenuse of a triangle, is irrational in space. It's irrational with things, but rational in time. So these are the artifacts. So now the interesting with architecture is that inside the building you have the picture, which is the infinity, the picture of the whole world. You got the rich inside as a picture. And you've seen what we had here with the pictures. Yeah, we had a picture. And it's always inside of these things that you have a panorama. So it's a circular, and you have a panorama of the world inside painted. And being rich like that, you articulate you as an alien in time. So you have a picture of irrationalizing picture of the old world of space, and you articulate you as a strong sculptural gesture in time. This is, I think, you can do that with Greek architecture, with Roman architecture as well. You will see that's a very simple setup. You will see it in all masterpieces of their time, and I think there's a very clear scheme. So it's very useful because, and that's the last chapter, if you want to do it in our times, it's a clear, strong indicator that it should be something like that. To get strong architectural articulations of recent time. So this, for example, is white noise of our times. These are all the buildings of the perimeters of the buildings of the city center of Zurich. So we can do it with millions of things. We had this poster there with 1.2 million cities of the world, or what we can, 220 million buildings are available in 3D on SketchUp and so on. So it's no problem. So this is a white noise. So because the interesting thing is they are all friends somehow. So I told you they are connected and so on. Every building is connected with each other. So with machine learning, referring to Markov, 1906, we create probability space in life. So, and then we get a grid of alienated points, which are not all the buildings of the city center of Zurich, or all the buildings of this world, or all the cities of the world. So they're simply not that. But they give you a matrix, like a kind of metron for that, so like Descartes. So like here, we can move. So you see how it works. And this is what they do. This is a kind of matrix. And we are able to move there freely in a kind of differential calculus, in between, as an alien in life, whatever it means. So looking at the energy, You see nature is encapsulating all these energy and flow and stream of things from the sun. This is what we're currently saying. So and just by knowing the quantum physics and knowing a certain pattern of writing or coding, I would say it's direct coding or it's doping, named doping. This is a grid of silicium. We make a two-color picture of that here with boron and phosphor. And we have photovoltaics. You print it like a newspaper, put it to the sun, and you bypass nature, and you have a source. You bypass nature of time, so all these resources and these capsules of we think what nature is, our footprint, we bypass it by a factor of 10,000 just by knowing to code. So, and the corresponding articulations in architecture, we find these kind of drawings. And they are rational in life. I would say this is code. They are rational in life, and they are, of course, irrational in time, because they're not perspective, and so on. So whatever it means, we don't really know. We need to work on these symmetries to ask better questions. We are aliens to that. So we have to make this kind of archaeology. And we need an instrument or a skeleton how to behave and how to learn to move within these kind of things. But if we trust in this status of skeleton, of thinking, this is code, and this is rational in life, but irrational in time. What is interesting somehow in comparison to the drawing of Renaissance. A lot to think about. So, and what is very interesting as well, now with the irrational, so these are the paintings on the inside, the panoramas of our time, and these are the sculptures of the outside. So I would say we should see 20th, 21st century architecture and learn to see and describe it like that, code it. With a painting, rich painted gesture of knowing the world as aliens, therefore painted, rich in that, and then getting out as a strong digital person. That's my talk.